Hi, everyone, and I hope that you all are having a good time this morning. I think the first two presentations have really set up the ground for this third presentation. So I'm very thankful for the four presenters because they've really shed light on some very important themes that are captured in this presentation, but more at the micro level rather than at the macro level. Okay? Just to tell you a little bit about myself, I'm Divya Sood, and I'm an occupational therapy practitioner for the last 10 plus years, I can say now. I started my practice back in India, and then I came to United States and completed my doctoral education in occupational therapy, and have been a part of Governor State University for the past 6 years. It's a long time now. And this is Dr. Caren Schranz.
Hi, I'm an occupational therapist also. I've been a pediatric therapist for most of my life with a lot of influence with adults as well, but I've been in practice for over 25 years now. I am faculty here, and I also still continue to do a lot of clinical work, mostly in the world of early intervention, with a heavy focus on families. So we wanted you to look at this picture. And we wanted you to look at this picture in terms of what it means to you. So I will explain a little bit here of what's happening in this picture. You see a little girl, and you also see her holding a shovel and a bucket. So, if that means anything to you, I'm going to show you another picture now to help put it into a different context. So now this picture includes the same little girl with her shovel and bucket on a beach with sand around her and with many other toys around her. So when looking at these two pictures, the focus of what we want to speak to you about today is about environments and how meaningful they are. We're specifically going to speak to you about the social environment, but to consider environments in general, whether it's this outside venue of the little girl in the sand, or more specifically in our context today, which is the home environment, our point is that environments are very meaningful, and we need to consider them. So the context of this presentation, most of the studies here during this presentation will be discussed that will focus on children with autism and their caregivers, and then children with sensory processing disorder and their caregivers. In order to begin, we need to consider what a home environment is. You see a picture of a home environment here with a couch and walls and a fireplace and things, but an environment is the place where children play and activities take place. Home environments are essential in fostering children's participation in interaction skills and abilities. When we talk about the home environment, we're considering the conditions within and surrounding the person. When we look at environments, we always consider the physical environment. And the physical environment can be the structure itself, or the walls and the stairs, or the physical being of the environment. But in terms of this, we're also including the things within the home, like the carpet, or the wood floor, or the lighting, or the sound in the home, the temperature of the home. And we're also including the things that are in the home, like the toys and materials and technology that may be available in the home. To put a perspective on the social environment, which is the main focus of this presentation, and the physical environment totally impacts the social environment, so we thought that was important to include. But the social environment involves the people with whom relationships are built. It contributes to the child's identity, and it molds their behaviors in relationship to others. When we talk about the family, we see them in terms of units that are unique and individual, and are influenced by their cultural context, parental preferences, beliefs, values, and routines. We heard this very clearly in our first presentation, didn't we? And we also, in our second presentation, now understand how health disparities can affect the home environment as well. The social environment can consist of parents. We know that families are unique themselves. Not every family is a set of two anymore. It can include grandparents. We know that grandparents are big factors in caring for children these days. Siblings, we use the term here caregiver a lot, encompasses everyone who cares for the child, and then peers. Some recent studies that look at participation patterns among children with autism spectrum disorder we thought was relevant to just start with. One article by Levesser and Berg in 2011 stated that children in the ages of 3 to 6 years old with autism spectrum disorders participate in fewer activities than their typical developing peers. And they also participated in fewer self-care activities, sedentary leisure activities, and daily chores than their peers. Another article by Little and et al. In 2014, it discussed how younger children with autism spectrum disorders participated in more parent-child household activities, such as picking up their toys, cleaning their room, and their playmates were adult children playmates, adult to the child playmate versus peer-to-peer playmates and community activities. The older children with autism spectrum disorder participated in more outdoor activities such as camping, hiking, and things like that. A study that we did with our Masters of Occupational Therapy students here at Governor State University, we completed a study on the impact of the home environment on participation among children with autism spectrum disorders as perceived by occupational therapy practitioners. The literature showed that participating families of a child with autism spectrum disorders considered the space of their home for more, and included a special space of their home for more family members to be involved in, for more personal space for emotional use with their child with autism spectrum disorders. Another study looked at the sensory experiences of children with autism and the impact it had on the family occupations, including that it's the family that chooses what they will do or not do. And it's how the family prepares for doing things and the feelings associated with the sensory experiences of the child. And a third literature that supported this particular study discussed the relationship between the parent's responsiveness toward the child and the availability of learning materials that supported the children's participation in social activities within the home. And it really stressed that the relationship between the parent and the child, that there was a lot of parental stress associated with participation in activities. The takeaway from all these articles that we can conclude is that parents, caregivers, and family members have a huge impact on what children do on a daily basis. The study was aimed to answer the question, what environmental factors within the home environment facilitate or inhibit participation of that child with autism spectrum disorders in home activities? And 20 occupational therapists participated to answer that question. And here are the themes that derived from the question that the therapist participated in. They identified that the play area within the home was a big factor that influenced participation patterns. Looking at an organized or designed play area was important, and it helped their children's development and social skills. And that if there was a lack of resources, it would truly inhibit their child's participation in play, and with a child with autism spectrum disorder. Another theme that emerged is that the parent or caregiver's responsiveness, that caregivers do not encourage their child to participate in daily routines often because they don't think that they can do it. They don't think that they have the ability to do it, or or that maybe they even want to do it. And then the parents or caregivers should practice certain communication and social skills with their child at home. And a third theme that emerged was that parent and caregiver awareness of the child's needs. That families have an awareness about the diagnosis and the sensory processing needs of the child. They could develop strategies to help their child meet those sensory needs. One parent stated that the availability of resources at the home and educating the parents was equivalent to the ability to providing access to the child with autism spectrum disorder.
Okay, so based on what you just heard from Dr. Schranz, what we really found out from the study that was conducted in it was published in 2014, though it was conducted a few years back, what we really started to find out was that yes, parents are actively involved in home environments with children with disabilities and helping them participate in what is meaningful for that family. But the question that was something that we really wanted to go ahead and understand was, how do these parents and caregivers influence their child's participation? How are they coming up with strategies? What sources are they using? Where are they learning this information from? So what we really concluded was that parents, caregivers develop, invent, learn about, use strategies within their own natural home environments to promote involvement of their child. But the question was, how do parents generate strategies, and what are these strategies? So based on that, we went ahead and conducted the study with a group of Masters of Occupational Therapy students in 2014, where we really wanted to understand from the parents, how do parents influence participation of their children in daily activities within the home environment. We did a survey with the parents, and what we found out was that there are several activities that children are getting engaged in as perceived by parents, like playing with toys, reading, doing crafts, doing chores, and a lot of parents said using technology devices like iPads. Then we found out what are the factors that parents perceived were influencing their child's participation. And the majority of the parents said that it was really the parental encouragement and modeling that was so helpful. Parents would model how things need to be done to the child. They said that most of the times the activities had to be centered around the child, and they were seeking others to do the activities for the child sometimes. So as an example, a few parents said that they would involve siblings while performing activities. So sibling could role model it to the child, and then the child would be motivated to participate more in the activity. And that's what leads to the theme of social environment. Then we were also curious to understand, how are these parents developing strategies to promote participation within the home? And as I've covered, they said modeling was their topmost choice, basically. Modeling how things are done. Adapting environment and tasks. That is, we keep things accessible, positive reinforcement, encouragement. Yes, you can do it. So a lot of parents said that is what was one strategy that they were using. And then doing a lot of preparatory work, preparing the child to do an activity, giving a lot of verbal explanation. Let's do this first. What will come next? So those were some examples that parents shared with us. Then one of our doctoral students in 2011 was also very fascinated to understand. She worked in a school system, Dr. Lauren Gronowski, and she wanted to understand how parents are developing strategies to facilitate play participation amongst children with a motor developmental delay. So she did this really fascinating study where she went into the home environments of parents and did lots of video recording of how parents are interacting with the child. How is it that the parent is saying, okay, let's get involved in hopscotch, or what strategy is the parent doing? So she didn't do direct interviewing. Instead, she video recorded for hours and hours and hours as to how those activities are being performed. And then we did extensive qualitative analysis of that data after transcribing those videotapes and everything. And what we found out from that study is parents were generating strategies using a variety of techniques like trial and error, self-exploration, and educational process. They would try things out. This didn't work out, let me try something else out. Self-exploration, that would they would be spending hours on Google, basically, looking at YouTube videos. How is it that this activity is done? So they were doing a lot of self-analysis themselves. Educational process, sitting in workshops, attending a workshop either online or, in the community or so on. Then, through that study, what we also found out that what kind of strategies they were using, most of the parents were using a lot of home modification. They would have adapted the home physically, creating play opportunities for the child. Come, let's get involved in an activity, always trying to motivate the child in the media of play, and using a lot of teaching skills to teach a skill to the child. So basically, what do we learn from these two studies is that, and these are consistent with some studies that were done early on, is to capitalize on family involvement, honoring family expertise. Strategies are unique to each family. We already heard about that. Emphasize on importance of collaborative partnership with families, respecting what parents know about the child, and inquiring from the parents, what strategies are you using? Rather than walking in, I'm the expert, here is what you need to do. No, what we really learned was, let's inquire. These parents are using a number of strategies already, and probably we really don't have to teach them anything new. We're just facilitating the process. And this was consistent with what we were reading from the vast literature in family capacity building practices. According to the Division for Early Childhood Recommended Practices in Early Intervention and Early Childhood Special Education, professionals working with children should strive for family capacity building practices. And what does that really mean? The way they describe it is that family capacity building practices should include opportunities and experiences provided to families by professionals to strengthen parents' existing knowledge and skills, and promoting the development of new parenting abilities that can enhance parenting capacities. So in a nutshell, the focus should be on how can we further enhance parenting skills, basically. And that is what led us to start thinking about that now we understand how social environment influences participation patterns, how families or parents are influencing how children participate. So there's a need to develop collaborative partnership models between families and healthcare providers, and utilizing coaching as an interaction style. Because as we were reading and reading and reading, we came across abundant literature on coaching. What is coaching? Coaching is an interactive process to promote coachees, and in this case, our coachees are parents or caregivers, ability to support a child's participation in everyday experiences and interaction across settings. Coaching involves reflective questioning. That is what it really revolves around. That is, it involves these 4 components, and I love the work that's published by Rush and Sheldon across years. One is an OT, the other is a physical therapist, and they work collaboratively and explore the world of coaching. What they provide is that there are 4 components that are involved in coaching. Awareness. So when you're talking, let's develop some awareness about what's happening. What do you know about it? What have you tried? Analysis-based questions. When you're interviewing your clients, alternative-based questions. Rather than saying, no, this is the right way of doing it. It's like, so what do you think, what else can be done about it? Okay, let's come up with a solution. Action-based question. What do you plan to do next? What do you think should come next? Okay. So this led Dr. Schranz and I to develop a collaborative coaching model. And what this model emphasizes on is that as we start in this model with the first phase, which is the occupational performance evaluation phase. I'm sorry, this is a very OT-based lingo, and I understand that. But what this really means is getting into the natural context, understanding what are the different factors of the child's capacity. I'm so sorry, it just came out. I'm sorry about that glitch. So what are the various child-related factors that are influencing child's ability to participate, as well as what we are discussing today, what are the various environmental related factors that are going to influence child's ability to participate. Social factors, physical factors, economic factors, and so on. Then we go to the next phase. Once we've done all that evaluation, let's build knowledge. Not our knowledge, but let's build caregivers' knowledge. Does the caregiver really know that sensory factors are influencing his or her child's ability to participate? Does the caregiver really know that how is the physical environment, that is the noise in the room, going to influence his or her child's participation? The third stage is, once we feel that the caregiver has really understood what are the factors influencing participation, let's develop strategies together. And then, following strategy generation phase, we go in for a caregiver self-analysis phase, which is, let's analyze from a caregiver's perspective, did it really work for the child or not? And how can things be modified so that it can work for the child?
Now, very quickly, a study that was done, participation in play in children with sensory processing dysfunction, enabled by caregivers' self-initiated solution-finding skills. The term sensory processing dysfunction is described here as a difficulty to register or modulate sensory information from the environment, which in turn limits how children explore their environments, which in turn impacts their social skills, confidence, gross and fine motor abilities, and limits their involvement in activities overall. And the study really looked at used the collaborative coaching model in order to facilitate play participation in children with SPD, looking at the child's level of play and the caregiver's ability to find solutions for their children. The model here is the same, so I'm not going to spend much time on this, but the intervention model put into place was similar to the coaching model that Dr. Sood just spoke about. Doing some pre-evaluation, arming the parent with knowledge, and collaborating with them to develop an awareness, then having them generate strategies for their child. So in this video, there were a couple things to point out. And the things to point out is that there were some things in the home environment that the mother chose the activity. It was important for her to play with her son with an activity like this that had noise and was educational and things like that. She set it up. She totally told him what he was doing. She set up the activity, and she showed a lot of anxiety and stress with that activity, didn't she? She was sad that he was disappointed, she knew that he was anxious and nervous. So we were able to look at the child and his interaction there, being anxious, being not interested in that, and having those sensory concerns of the noise of the toy. There were distractions in the environment, things like that. And then the mom and I sat down together and we collaborated to generate strategies on how she could meet the child's sensory needs, how she could change the environment, and how she could change her communication to support the child in this activity using a coaching interaction style. Let me just show you the after video. You can tell that some things have changed. The environment changed in the fact that the mom let him choose, let him set up the activity, got the table and chair, talked to him about how that they could adapt the game so that it wouldn't have a big surprise for him. And then their communication of mom changed, right? She put some strategies into place to support his sensory needs, and she used a communication that was different. And you see that the outcome was totally different. In general, the caregiver's knowledge increased, her performance of being able to play an activity like this increased, and her overall satisfaction in engaging with her child in this way increased. Let's go on to the next one.
Okay, so this is the second study that we recently conducted, and the reason why we conducted is, as we know, from 0 to 3, children get or receive early intervention. And what the literature was telling us is that as soon as children graduate from early intervention, that is when the stress levels amongst parents start to increase. They're not too sure what to do now. the child is receiving services at school, and the focus of the services in school is academic in nature, right? They're not really focusing on what's happening within the home environment. So keeping all those concepts in mind led us to develop what is called the Enriched Home Environment Program for preschool age children with a diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder. Again, as I said, the conclusions from the literature predicated the development of this model, and the aim of this model was to educate families about the impact of factors that influence child's participation, again, child factors, as well as the environmental factors, and collaborating with families to help them generate their own strategies to adapt or modify the environments, routines, or tasks that children want to perform. So, going in for like what was really happening in this study. What we did is it was a case study based design. We just could recruit 2 families of children with autism spectrum disorder to participate in the study. We collected some baseline data just to understand child's cognitive development, child's sensory development, child's motor skill development, and what are the activities that the child participates in. Then in the second session, we educated the parents about the influence of those factors on child's participation. In the third session, we helped parents develop capacity to adapt or modify their home environments. As an example, parents wouldn't be sure about how do I recreate a play area for my child? How can I recreate an area where my child can go and meet the sensory modulation-based needs? The fourth session was to develop parents' capacity to use the modified environment. Most of the times, research suggests people stop at session 3. You've modified your home environment, your child should be able to function or participate better. But it was really important for us to develop parents' capacity to feel competent. Yes, I know how to use this modified environment. Modifications were simple. We didn't ask parents to make any investments. They were like putting a trampoline or putting equipment that the child can use to meet his or her sensory needs. So making environments that meet or that synchronize with the sensory needs of the child. And session 5 was we collected post data. I'm just pulling up the results from the first participant. So the mother said that she wanted AB to get involved in play activity at home without meltdowns. Before participating in the study, she rated his performance on a scale of 1 to 10 at a 4, and after participating, she rated his extent of participation as an 8. Similarly, you can see that there is an increase in the satisfaction with participation from 4 to an 8. And the most powerful thing that we got out of the study was just not those numbers, but the qualitative data. What is it that the parents had to tell us about it? And I just want to read this out, that parents said that healthcare professionals helped me understand my child's capacity was valuable. As one of the parents stated, having somebody come in and actually sit down and explain made a difference. The second thing that came out was parents recognized the benefits of a healthcare professional collaborating with them to identify solutions, and parents appreciated the information that they received. As one of the parents stated, information was very helpful because it is the parent that have to work with the kids on a daily basis. So from concluding from the 2 studies, both Dr. Schranz and the study that I just discussed, we were able to develop awareness amongst parents about various factors that influence the child's participation. We did a critical analysis of the home environment. We partnered with the parents to develop solutions which were embedded in their home environment. We were not getting solutions from outside the home environment. And we guided the parents to learn how to use adapted environments. Many a times we go in, adapt the environments, but the main process was we use various techniques as to how can you learn to use and feel competent about using those adaptations. the future directions that we have just put up together, both of us thought about it, was really to go from here to develop a discussion forum to explore how we as a team of professionals can influence social environments of children, and developing partnerships with other healthcare providers, parents, and community members so that the unmet needs of the community are targeted. Thank you, and we are sorry we ran over time.
Do you have any questions? Yes.
Did you come across any parents having concerns about their child traveling to school and how to make modifications to make their bus run more?
Let me repeat the question really quick for audio purposes. Concerns about parents traveling to school and
Having the child travel to school.
Yeah.
What kind of modifications?
modifications
are
about
they
the traveling to
asking
school.
that
Right.
are made in order to make that bus ride
Right.
better for a child who has sensory
That's a great question. One of the families that participated in the Enriched Home Environment Program, the mother had that major concern. But what actually happened was, after the educational session was over, we were working more on play skills. But look at this, the mother understood what the needs of the child is, and she herself came up with those strategies. And it was fascinating. The next time when we went into their homes to collect data, that is exactly what the mom told us. She said, oh my gosh, I can't even tell you how easy transitioning into the bus was today. And we are sitting there and we are like, can you tell us what did you do? And she said, you discussed those strategies, and I just took the vestibular ball outside to the bus stop, and that's what he was sitting on, jumping on the ball, and there comes a bus, and he goes inside the bus. And we were like happy to, we were fascinated that how could those strategies that the parents are actually using in the home could easily be generalized into various other environments. And we never thought that, it could be generalized across contexts, basically. Want to add something?
Yes.
Did you, as part of your study, did you work with families with more than one child at home? I'm assuming that
Yes.
The question is working with families with more than one child at home. We did, and oftentimes you're able to incorporate into that what the peer relationship to facilitate the social impact or the social environment. Try to get the other sibling involved and try to help them even think of strategies that they could do to play with their sibling and engage with them. Yeah.
And just to add to that, the data that I showed you for a family, the mother was like, my child should be able to play, and that child had a sibling, and that is what the mother wanted to do. We even collected data on a family where both the kids had autism spectrum disorders. And that was a fascinating experience, not only from a researcher perspective, but also from a clinician perspective.
Yes.
What you were talking about is self-reflection and collaboration. And how do you teach students who are in your master's program those two critical skills? And I kind of think that having them work on these projects and collaborate and get publications is a good step. But is it a part of curriculum across the college? That's my question.
I think as an instructor, getting students to realize, really, Becky, when I was a young therapist, and the schools and in early intervention, I focused solely on that child. What am I going to come in with? What am I going to do? What am I going to do to improve their skills, right? And then as time went on, I started to think, about the family, and look, I'm in this environment, and what could I do? And generalizing that over time, I think it's becoming, because of this research, it's becoming more current knowledge that this is a way that we need to look at working with children, instead of just trying to focus right on the child, to focus on the whole family or the whole school or the classroom, whether it's a teacher or whomever it is, to try to focus on that thing. And I hope that we educate the students in doing that and getting them to really look at the really big picture of this, and that it's not just the child, it impacts everybody in that child's life. Yeah.
I think educating students, but also other clinicians. and
Absolutely.
Right. And
I think this collaborative coaching model is fantastic. I
Right.
know a lot of speech pathologists within early intervention who go, as you mentioned, and the parent goes off and does the dishes or does something, and then the last 15 minutes they come for the therapy, for
Right.
Agreed.
consulting. Even in a clinical setting, this happens. And so there's a lack of a collaborative effort, and I think we need to share this. I could think of many speech pathologists who would benefit from practicing this model, and I think we're intimidated or we're scared, and we need to develop an ability to work with parents and do trial and error activities just as the parent is doing.
And that's why we ended with the future direction of partnering with every healthcare professional to try to target this collaborative process. Yeah.
I just wanted to quickly say too, to our commission friends, is that at UIC, what we also see is they embrace the coaching model in EI, but it's a center-based EI program. And just as you demonstrated that the mom took the ball to the bus and generalized from the home environment to the outside environment, what we've seen down there, and with different clinics, it doesn't matter where you use the coaching model, that the family, once they understand and they feel that empowerment and that collaboration, you can be in your clinic and they will generalize to the home where you can talk about a home situation or you can talk about the grocery store situation. And I think one of the things early interventionists got stuck in was the interesting definition of natural environment, but you as the clinician had to go to the grocery store, you had to go to church to train the child, and you still eliminated the family because you put yourself in place. And so I think we need to remember that even for clinicians, whether you're hospital-based or outpatient clinic-based, with this coaching model, you can teach that and work with the parent, and then they can generalize to wherever they go in the rest of the week, as long as they're hanging with you the entire treatment session and not running and doing other activities. But you need to have the parent there.
And I agree with it. Like, we use this with the teachers at the Family Development Center. We've used it, but, we're trying to test it at, like, different contexts. And you're right, it's, like, look at this. We taught the parent at the home, but she could just do it everywhere then. So it's really not context specific.
I think to build on the question about what we do with students, since we're in the university setting, I mean, one is we're making sure that students understand all the fundamentals of how the body and the mind, et cetera, will work, and we're teaching them how to observe. But we have to make sure that the students understand as they leave that their role is not to save the people they're working with. That going in there with this sense of, I'm here, step aside, let me do this.
Right.
And I think that's the old-fashioned way of looking at healthcare. And it turned the recipient into this passive model of, here I am, fix me, and this idea of the practitioner that step aside, I'm here to make it better. And what you're talking about is, yes, you take all of this knowledge and then you collaborate so that it's fine to give our knowledge
Absolutely.
to the parents and the family.
Absolutely.
And that's what we do as
Right,
teachers.
Robin.
And I was going to say the same thing in terms of, the medical model, moving away from that medical model. And by doing so, you build trust with the family members because you have to respect the culture, respect the home, and you teach the students to do that as well.
Right.
And you're right, a lot of our students, I think they're thinking they're going to fix something that's wrong, and when it's actually all is so the person may not perceive themselves as broken.
That's so true. Yes.
Kind of on the flip side of that, to get another perspective, my husband has a processing disorder. He now is 36 and successful, and he can look back and reflect and say, I wish my husband or my parents had those tools, because he had, early interventions, and it was the fix-it model, and services kind of ended as soon as he went home.
Exactly.
And so now, he's in the works for the railroad, but he knows that I'm in the field and he, you know, stresses the importance. It's not just, it's the wraparound approach. It's everyone's involved, and if you just have one person, that student is missing so much.
Absolutely.
You know, it's not the, you know, the strategies or the therapies or the interventions end when that 45-minute session is over. And when, you know, when we empower the parents, and a lot of times, you know, we'll look and say, it's just not working. And it's the parents just need more tools in their pocket.
That's so
They,
true.
you know, they want to try, and they get overwhelmed and frustrated, and they're overwhelmed with life, and they're overwhelmed with balancing everything. And then, you know, add a, you know, having a child with a disability, or one or two children, you know, two children, they just need tools. And then that collaboration too, that communication with the parents to sit down and talk to somebody and know, wow, you're interested in helping my child. This is your interest. You're involved and have stock in helping my children, just like I am.
Thank you for
Thank you.
sharing that.
One
You
more-
take
one
one
more.
last. Okay, go ahead.
Seeing how everybody's very interested in this collaborative model, I myself, I like it, and I think it's a fantastic idea about how can we introduce it effectively to other healthcare professionals that are more medical centered with their models, like psychologists or physicians, where they don't really look holistically, not because they don't want to, but maybe because they don't have the time, because they're not trained to spend 45-minute sessions with a client or patient. Whereas with therapy, you know, we have that. So how could they take such a model seriously, you know, or like strategies I was wondering that you might have found out from the research?
Well, we're going to open the dialogue for sure,
Absolutely.
Mustafa, and we're going to build on it from here. Yeah, future directions.
Right. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.